introduce to you the President-elect of the United States of America, Donald Trump.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
Look at my African American over here.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists. I want surveillance of certain mosques, okay? Poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
You could see there was blood coming out of her eyes. Blood coming out of her, wherever.
And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the...
We have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out.
ISIS is honoring President Obama. He is the founder of ISIS.
It seems incredible, surely, that a man who comes out with this kind of stuff could emerge as the most powerful man on earth after an election? Is the thrice bankrupt multi-billionaire a Teflon man with a Midas touch? Or, as the American presidential campaign has shown, an outlier with an uncommon feel for the common touch?
Get him over here, quick, come on. I have all night. Do we have all night or what? What the heck? Come here.
Sure, he spun webs of untruth.
Did you see yesterday Obama screaming and screaming and screaming? Just like the way he runs the country, nobody listens to him. Screaming.
In a campaign of unrivaled ugliness.
The other candidate in this race, you know her name, Crooked Hillary Clinton.
Apparently incoherent, even deranged. But there was some method amid his madness.
Who's going to pay for the wall? Who?
Trump the showman knew his audience. He understood that the Washington establishment was floating on an ocean of mostly white working class anger. That the white working class male sees himself as an endangered species, and Trump knew where to look for them. They were in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, once the beating heart of American industry. Now a sclerotic rust belt of abandonment.
We lost all those jobs to foreign countries. Then we lost jobs, so we lost people. You lose people, you lose money. So it makes your economy go down. I think possibly the majority of the people around here are struggling.
Back in 2010, we were considered the poorest of the nation, of the city of its size. We've had people that have come through our system because they worked in a tannery, the tannery left and went to Mexico. They're going overseas. So we see a lot of good, hardworking people frustrated coming into homeless services saying, I never thought this would be me. We thought we could retire here. We thought we could raise our family this way. And it just was pulled out from under them.
Trump blamed job losses and poverty on the North Atlantic Free Trade Agreement. It was signed by Bill Clinton in 1993, and he promised to repeal that and other trade deals and repatriate the jobs that went with them.
Did anybody else ever think of this? Because it's very interesting, but it used to be cars were made in Flint, and you couldn't drink the water in Mexico. Now the cars are made in Mexico, and you can't drink the water in Flint. That's not good. That's not good. It's terrible.
In contrast, Hillary Clinton seemed to have a tin ear for those left behind by globalisation.
The coal industry has kind of been on a decline, and in particular during the Obama administration, coal's been on a serious decline. So we are the trickle-down part of what's happened with coal. So kids coming out of high school, and going to college, so many of them don't come back, and that's kind of sad.
We're going to put a lot of coal miners and coal companies out of business.
I just want to know how you can say you're going to put a lot of coal miners out of jobs, and then come in here and tell us how you're going to be our friend, because those people out there don't see you as a friend.
Her stance on coal is pretty much out there, and I'm not sure people around here appreciate that too much. So, not as popular as President Clinton was, for sure.
Trump faced severe opposition from his own party. Mesa, Arizona is a Republican town, known apparently for its broad streets but narrow minds.
The Republican Party, of course, is the conservative party in America, and I'm a lifelong Republican. This is a disturbing year for Republicans. A lot of us are in agony because of the man who hijacked the Republican Party, Donald Trump, and trying to figure out what is that going to mean for the future of the party.
He's the editor of the Republican newspaper, which, for the first time in over 100 years, endorsed a Democrat.
Well, you have to work pretty hard as a Republican nominee to lose the state of Arizona or lose its newspaper. And so it was an extraordinary thing that happened. Had the Republicans nominated somebody like Marco Rubio or Jeb Bush, I don't think we'd be doing this interview right now.
The reactions of some readers was extreme.
We'll bomb your car, we know where you live, we will come for you, we hope you're hanging like traitors. I haven't been involved in a presidential endorsement where there have been death threats until this one. We've had specific threats against our journalists, against our editorial page writers. Horrifying, absolutely horrifying.
I moved on her, and I failed. I'll admit it.
Whoa.
I did try and she was married.
Huge news, Sarah.
But that didn't stop the Trump juggernaut, and neither did a taped confession boasting of sexual assaults on women.
I took off her and I moved on her like a but I couldn't get there, and she was married. Then all of a sudden I see her, she's now got the big phony and everything. She's totally changed her looks.
A grudging apology followed.
I've never said I'm a perfect person, nor pretended to be someone that I'm not. I've said and done things I regret, and the words released today on this more than a decade-old video are one of them. Anyone who knows me knows these words don't reflect who I am. I said it, I was wrong, and I apologize. I've said some foolish things, but there's a big difference between the words and actions of other people. Bill Clinton has actually abused women, and Hillary has bullied, attacked, shamed, and intimidated his victims.
Then there were more allegations of sexual misconduct.
I stood up, and he came to me and started kissing me open-mouthed as he was pulling me towards him. I walked away and I sat down in a chair. He was on a love seat across from me, and I made an attempt at conversation. He then asked me to sit next to him. I complied. He then grabbed my shoulder and began kissing me again very aggressively and placed his hand on my breast. I pulled back and walked to another part of the room. He then walked up, grabbed my hand, and walked me into the bedroom. I walked out. I felt I had to speak out about your behavior. You do not have the right to treat women as such. You do not have the right to treat women as sexual objects just because you are a star.
Make sure he becomes our president. We're covering over passes.
But it had little long-term impact.
And fed up Democrats.
I've got all my friends are all crazy.
His hardcore supporters remained staunchly loyal.
He's an equal opportunity offender. He's non-PC, and that's what I love about him. Americans are afraid to say what they really think.
With the benefit of hindsight, it's now becoming clear that Donald Trump tapped into something that made him immune to the normal infections that destroy other politicians.
Well, for all Trump's political trumps, no bad odour seemed to persist. Just look at these numbers. Clinton won 65% of the Hispanic vote this year. Not bad. Trump got 29%.
When do we beat Mexico at the border? They're laughing at us, at our stupidity. And now they're beating us economically. They are not our friend, believe me. But they're killing us economically.
But compared to the 2012 campaign, that was a disaster. A full 71% voted for Obama back then. And Trump actually got 2 more percentage points than Romney did in 2012. Now, Trump was also unashamed of racial profiling.
I'm putting the people on notice that are coming here from Syria as part of this mass migration, that if I win, they're going back. They're going back. I'm telling you. They're going back.
Yet, Clinton's support among black voters collapsed. 88% back to this year compared to 93% for Obama. And again, Trump beat Romney by 2 percentage points in this latest race. Clinton also hoped to pick up the young vote. Well, she didn't. Not enough anyway. She got 55% of the 19 to 24s. Obama got 60%. And while the Republican candidates in both elections held steady at 37%. But it's among the white, less well-educated working class that the figures are most stark. Among whites with no degree, Clinton polled just 28%. Trump wiped her out with 67%. And that translated into some staggering wins in the Rust Belt, traditionally unionized and long-term Democrat country. His appeal to these vital and often ignored people somehow meant that no matter how much mud he threw around, none of it seemed to stick to the Teflon Don. Not so for Clinton, to whom it clung like muck on mohair.
I want us to be lifting ourselves up. And that's what I will do if I'm so honored as to be your president.
Clinton, it sometimes seemed, could not keep up with the staggering pace set by Trump.
Every time I think about Trump, I get allergic.
And she collapsed during, of all things, the 9/11 memorial ceremonies. But she brushed off the bout of pneumonia.
Madam Secretary, how are you feeling?
Great. I'm feeling great.
What happened?
And so did her husband.
It's a crazy time we live in, you know, when people think there's something unusual about getting the flu. Last time I checked, millions of people were getting it every year.
But he was always part of the problem. Whether he was with her or not, his presence was a ghostly reminder of how she was part of the establishment. In many ways, they were the establishment, and the Clinton name will be forever associated with Beltway politics. She could never shake responsibility for any ills attached to her decades as a Washington insider. Her husband's infidelities.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Somehow her fault.
To me, Hillary Clinton is everything that I would never want to be in a woman. First of all, she let her husband cheat on her in front of the whole world and say, oh, it's okay. Now, that right there, I mean, she's done a lot of horrible things. I mean, a lot of horrible things. The Benghazi soldiers, the emails, everything. But that right there, if you're not going to take up for yourself, you're not going to take up for our country.
War in Iraq. Her fault. The banking collapse. Her fault. The death of Ambassador Christopher Stevens may have also been a fatal wound to her political future. She ran the State Department when he was killed, a department that did not upgrade security on the embassy and then played down the attack as a spontaneous event. It turned out to have been carefully planned.
You know, I've
would imagine I've thought more about what happened than all of you put together. I've lost more sleep than all of you put together. I have been racking my brain about what more could have been done or should have been done.
But she held her own in the polls until less than 2 weeks before the elections, when the FBI chucked a grenade into her campaign, reopening the issue of her use of unofficial email systems to move secret documents.
There's this new email story about, why in the world the FBI would decide to jump into an election without evidence of any wrongdoing with just days to go. That's a really good question. But I want you to know, look, I've said repeatedly, I made a mistake. I'm not making any excuses. But I will tell you this. If they want to look at some more emails of one of my staffers, by all means, go ahead, look at them. And I know they will reach the same conclusion they reached when they looked at my emails last year, right?
Now the FBI has found, you're not going to believe this one, this just happened, another 650,000 emails. But how do you have that many emails? What do? Sit down all day and just keep typing? Hey, no wonder nothing gets done in our country. This is the single biggest scandal since Watergate.
The FBI's letter to Congress saying that they were investigating the email flow again slashed her lead in the polls from close to 5% to half of that. She never quite recovered.
I'm so glad to see that everything is finally coming out about all the Hillary lost emails and texts and everything like that.
Just confirms the fact that she's been crooked since the very beginning. She's lied to the public, which nobody appreciates, ever.
I think it's wonderful that somebody has stepped up and decided to say, yeah, we're going to open this up and reveal what's really going on with this campaign and with this woman.
She may have been cleared by the FBI, but in the last few days of the election, the idea that Hillary Clinton couldn't be trusted just wouldn't go away.
Certainly Donald Trump and the Republicans are going to be saying, well, it's about time, and Hillary Clinton is going to just be having her fingers in her hair going, oh, gosh, I can't believe this. 2 weeks before the campaign, this could be potentially devastating news for her. Hillary!
But she also never quite got the message sent to her by this man, Bernie Sanders, the socialist contender for the Democratic presidential nomination.
So all over this country, I've been talking to people, and they say, how does it happen? I'm producing more, but I'm working longer hours for lower wages. My kid can't afford to go to college. I'm having a hard time affording health care. How does that happen? While at exactly the same time, 99% of all new income generated in this country is going to the top 1%.
They came from the opposite ends of the political spectrum, but they were chasing the same voters. He, like Trump, had an appeal to the disenfranchised among America's workers.
He's going to make America great again.
When he won, President-elect Trump echoed much of Sanders' economic policy, a return to job creation that could be better associated with the philosophy of the pre-war New Deal, a plan to spend America's way out of decline.
I've gotten to know our country so well, tremendous potential. It's going to be a beautiful thing. Every single American will have the opportunity to realize his or her fullest potential. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. We are going to fix our inner cities and rebuild our highways, bridges, tunnels, airports, schools, hospitals. We're going to rebuild our infrastructure, which will become, by the way,
second to none. And we will put millions of our people to work as we rebuild it.
I think Bernie Sanders' dramatic success in the Democrat primary signaled to us that this dissatisfaction was rampant on both sides of the political aisle in the United States. I would say there are just as many disaffected Democrats as there are disaffected Republicans. And if Bernie Sanders were the candidate running against Donald Trump, I'm not quite sure what the result would have been. But Donald Trump, in many ways, drew some of Bernie Sanders' disaffected voters over to his side, especially when it came to talk about trade and how that evaporated American jobs. That really resonated with the typical blue-collar union Democrat rank-and-file voter. And I believe many of them, especially in states like Pennsylvania and Ohio, voted for Donald Trump because of the message that sounded a lot like Bernie Sanders.
It's about jobs. It's about putting people to work. What Donald Trump brought and what I saw out there when I would go with him to rallies was hope. People who had lost jobs and pensions and their homes to foreclosure. They knew that the policies that were being put out there by the existing government, Democrats and Republicans, it was failing them. He brought them hope that he was listening to them. He was going to work for them, not just for the people in the institutions of government and finance.
Come January, though, President Donald Trump is going to have to work with those very people and institutions. He'll need to make deals and compromises. And he's made some spectacular promises. Many of them will be very difficult to keep.
That he's going to build a wall with Mexico, that he's going to have a trade war with China, that he's going to disrespect our biggest ally, which is Great Britain, that he's going to diminish NATO. He can't do that. An American president can't do that. He realizes he's now won the election, and now he has to be president of all the people. He has to be president of the Democrats, like me, who violently disagree with him. But we're willing to give him a chance. We respect the results. We want America to be strong and to be unified. And the country needs a lot of healing. But he's going to have to make that transfer from being a candidate who got a lot of votes and said simplistic and dumb things to a president who now has to govern. There's a difference between politicking and running for office and governing.
Running a company is one thing. Running a country is an entirely different challenge. And when he starts, Donald Trump will be little more than an apprentice. Sam Kiley, Sky News.